No, it wasn't an April Fool's joke. We do have Errata for Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, Out of the Abyss, the Player's Handbook, and a new Sage Advice Compendium, the first one we've gotten in over a year. If you're curious what changes and updates there have been, stay tuned. What's going on, folks? I'm Ted. This is Nerd Immersion. Let's dive right in. Mr. Jeremy Crawford himself put out a tweet today announcing this. Again, you can see here Sage Advice for April 2020. The last one we had was in January of 2019, so it's been well over a full year since we've received any updates. But I guess people have been asking, so I thought I'd address this first, actually. What is Errata? What is Sage Advice? So Errata is, I'm assuming it's Latin. It sounds Latin. Where basically there's an update that's happening to the book, a revision. If this was a video game, you would consider this to be a patch, right? So the problem that we have with printed books, right, is if I make an update to this book and it's already in print and you have it and somebody finds some issues, well, then I need to make those updates and then reprint it. So what happens is an errata article is listed for Wizards of the Coast whenever there is a fresh printing of the book. So for example, if you have a player's handbook from 2015, when it first came out, and you buy a player's handbook off the shelf right now from this new printing, you will see several changes in that book, and there's a discrepancy between the two. I may save for another video the idea of what kind of issues that can cause, but that's what it is. Now, if Wizards of the Coast released their books in PDF, you would just download a new PDF, and that would fix that problem. Again, if you use a digital tool set like something like Roll20 or D&D Beyond, then you'll get those updates as soon as those updates go live. So let's take a look here back to D&D Beyond. So there's a Sage Advice Compendium, and it says, today we're releasing an update on the Compendium, which basically has guidance on what spells qualify for Sorcerer's Twin Spell feature, and new errata for Xanathar's Guide to Everything, blah, blah, blah. So let's take a look. So it says to search for new when you go in here. So here is the Sage Advice Compendium. You can see it lists all the errata here for every book that's received errata. And some of these, I will tell you, are substantial. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that if you guys ask. So we can go ahead and we'll search new in this article, see what comes up. Okay, so first thing we have here is, can my sorcerer use Twin Spell to affect a particular spell? You can use Twin Spell on spells that target only one creature, doesn't have a range of self, is incapable of targeting more than one creature at the spell's current level. If you know this rule, yet are still unsure whether a particular spell qualifies for Twin Spell, consult your DM, who has the final say. If the two of you are curious about our design intent, here is the list of things that qualify as a spell for us. The spell, or disqualify a spell, has a range of self, can target an object. The spell allows you to choose more than one creature to be affected by it, particularly at the level you're casting the spell. Some spells increase their number of potential targets when you cast them at a higher level. The spell can force more than one creature to make a saving throw before the spell's duration expires, or the spell lets you make a roll of any kind that can affect more than one creature before the spell's duration expires. So to give you an idea, right, if it's a spell that uses self as a range, that means it's only castable on you. Therefore, you can't target somebody else because it's only castable on you. When it says it targets... is incapable of targeting more than one creature, there was a process and a thought going around way back in the early days of 5e. Let's use Scorching Ray as an example. Scorching Ray lets you shoot 3 rays. If I target you with all 3 rays, 1, 2, 3, then in theory, I've only targeted you. I could Twin Spell it and then cast 3 rays at somebody else. That's not the case because each ray could be cast at a different person, therefore allowing you to not use Twin Spell because it's capable of targeting others. That's kind of the main thing from this, and that's kind of explained here with, like, if a spell says you can do one target and then later it lets you attack a second target, then it disqualifies it because it can by default affect more than one target. And I believe that is it for the new stuff. Yeah, the new Sage Advice. So let's check out the player's handbook. So for the player's handbook, we have a section here under Rogue, under spell slots, for talking about the Arcane Trickster. It added spells known of first level, and they added in the final sentence of the subsection, the closing phrase has changed to read as follows: unless you're replacing the spell you gained at 3rd, 8th, 14th, or 20th level from any school of magic, meaning that if you're replacing a spell, it has to be of illusion or enchantment unless it's one of those. That's just a clarifier, not a big deal. And then the last new, I can find it here. There's one more and I just missed it. Heavy. So it's regarding heavy weapons and heavy items. Typically, they in the first sentence, small creatures has been changed to small or tiny creatures. So previously, the way it read, if you were a medium or larger creature, you could wield something that was considered heavy, a weapon, and it provided no downside to you. And then if you were small, it would provide, I think, disadvantage on the attack roll. But that meant, in theory, if you were a tiny creature wielding a heavy weapon, it provided no downside to you. So this just clarifies and says tiny or small or tiny. So it just clears that up. And then everything else is good. Now, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, this is the first errata we've received for this. And I probably hyped this up a little bit too much in my head that we were going to get something big and like game-changing, and we didn't at all. We got the thing we already discussed, the fact that the D8s in the original printing of Xanathar's, the Ancestral Guardian table shows D8s, but the text says D6s. It's been clarified, it's D6s all around. Arcane Shot, as we said, fixed the flub in the wording that says when you fire a magic arrow, has now been changed to when you fire an arrow, therefore making you not wait till level 7 to use your ability or having to rely on a magic item you may or may not get. Now, in Chapter 2, it says Research. In the Resolution subsection, both instances of 100 GP have been changed to 50 GP. Now, I'll be honest with you, I probably should have looked this up ahead of time, but I didn't. So let's go ahead and go to Xanathar's. I'm going to go to Chapter 2, and in here we're going to look up Research. That's not how you spell research, Ted. I thought it, so what does it say? You said research, right? Yeah, page 132. Unfortunately, it doesn't give us pages. So it did say chapter 2. Yeah, all right. I don't see it. Well, I'll look for it again. But then also the common magic item was the talking doll, and the talking doll now has, where is it? Here we go. Common magic items. Talking doll, they changed some of it to read what? First sentence, set a condition under which the doll speaks each phrase, has changed to set an observable condition under which the doll speaks each phrase. So that fixes that. Also, if common magic items was this section here, it's probably under downtime is where research is. Here we go. Resolution. After 1 work week, the character makes an intelligence check with a +1 bonus per 100 GP spent beyond the initial 100 GP. So that has been changed to 50. Healing Spirit does get the nerf that everybody thought or was hoping it wasn't going to get. Sorry about that. Where it now reads you can heal a maximum of 1 plus your spellcasting modifier, minimum of twice. After healing that number of times, the spirit disappears. Holy Weapon changes to be within 30 feet of you to within 30 feet of the weapon. If the weapon is emanating the power, that makes sense. Life transference, this was something I was surprised was never in there, but it kind of takes away from it. So it's you take 48 to transfer life transference. You take necrotic damage to give somebody else HP. So you take 48 necrotic damage, has changed to you take 48 necrotic damage, which can't be reduced in any way. So the thing is, the way that spell works is you take 48 necrotic damage, and then the person you're choosing to heal gains double the hit points of damage you took. But if you reduced that damage, then they're going to gain less hit points, so it's kind of a weird trade-off. And then again, as we discussed, Mind Spike fixed it so that the higher levels do D8s, not D6s. Mordenkainen and Tome of Foes, the first time we're getting errata for this. Nothing too crazy. Orcus had a save DC removed that wasn't needed. And Red Abishai's bite attack went from 5d10 down to 3d10. The Hellfire Engine sentence now reads, on a successful save, the creature is pushed to the nearest space out of the Hellfire Engine's path. And Zariel's Javelin attack went from range 3120 to 10 feet or range 3120 because you can stab with a Javelin. And then out of the Abyss here, we have the following They changed some of the words for the fungi patch from sentinel mushrooms, now reads awakened zirkwoods. The Stone Giant guide changes from Galtogrip to Gracklestewed, which makes more sense in the course of the game. Egg Chamber, instead of 2 of the 4, it's 3 of the 4. This, I think, is regarding the purple worm eggs. And the Durgar Soul Blade, they changed the action to its special traits and replaces it, create Soul Blade with the following text. As a bonus action, it can create a short sword-sized visible blade of psionic energy. The weapon appears in the Durgar's hand and vanishes if it leaves its grip, or if it dies or is incapacitated. And I think these may have already been here, but the appendices, Demogorgon's passive perception has changed from 21 to 29. And the skills entry for Grast, Bluff, that was something I had seen originally because it says Bluff, which is an old term. Bluff was replaced with Deception, which is the accurate terminology. Orcus cut save DC 23 from its first lair action, similar to what we saw up above. Or actually, that was in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. We saw that, so they removed that. And then the Madness of Orcus. In the second line, Roll on the Madness of Deweyblek's table is changed to Roll on the Madness of Orcus table. Makes sense that Orcus's Madness is granted by Orcus, not Deweyblek's. So that is it. Unfortunately, it's nothing crazy, right? It was no game-shattering errata. But if you did see when I went through that player's handbook errata, there was a substantial amount of information there. So if you haven't looked, I would take a look because they did change some things. The most notable would be the changes they made to some of the Ranger stuff in the previous errata by making the Ranger's companions' attacks magical eventually, which was something that it did not have. So that is something interesting because that's a major mechanical update that was made to a class that was pushed through an errata, and if you only use your OG player's handbook, you would never know. Again, let me know in the content or in the comments down below if you want me to do a video just on errata. I could do one on the player's handbook. That's really the primary one with the most updates. So if you're curious and you want to see me cover that and talk about what the difference is, I could definitely do so. So let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in that. Also, again, let me know if there's any other videos you want me to make. There's been a lot of coverage of fixing videos lately. I want to get back into doing some DMs guild reviews. I do have a bunch of stuff in the hopper that I just haven't had time to do. But I'm curious. I'm always out to look for new stuff and new content based on your suggestions. So let me know what you want to see, and I'll do my best to comply. I did want to say a couple of things. One, I have a Patreon now. There is a link in the description, and there'll be a link on the end card here as well. Enough of you have asked me to set up a Patreon, so you could choose to support the channel if you don't just do Twitch, because that's pretty much the only way to support me outside of subscribing and things like that. But people were asking, so I thought I'd set one up. There are a couple of tiers, and by the time you see this video, I may or may not have YouTube memberships available as well. If I do, there'll be a white join button next to the subscribe button. Basically, I would say compare the two. There are slight differences between Patreon and YouTube membership, but for the most part, you're getting the same kind of thing, access to behind-the-scenes stuff to talk to me, and potential access to one-on-one with me, as well as Q&A live streams and fun stuff like that. Again, you're not going to lose any content that you're already getting from me. It's still going to come out as often and as frequent as you see it now on all these different topics, but this will get you a little bit more for people who want to support me a little bit further. Again, no obligation if you choose not to. No harm, no foul. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.